works over there. Okay, this next lady, there's just so much to say. Her name is Madeline Jenkins. Let's see here. Last year's ensemble event, she actually was the winning designer. She designed her own outfit and a bunch of other things. And she is featured in this magazine that Ann is holding up, which we have on the counter over there. She's obviously a writer. She is also a student of forensic anthropology at Beloit College in Wisconsin, my alma mater from a long, long time ago. She has not had any of her writings published yet, but hopefully the Crossroads deal she made will come through soon. I'm sure there's a story there, I don't know it. She's created a short web comic, both doing the writing and the illustration, and it's available on, I can't pronounce this, it's in the program, it's a tumblr.com link. And if you want to write her a note, this is brave, you actually told everybody this. You ready? Okay, here it goes. You can contact her at am_I_write, W-R-I-T-E, at yahoo.com. But anyway, come on up, Madeline. This will be fun.
Okay. All right, so this is a story very tentatively called Faith. I change the title every 5 minutes, so. And I'm going to give the disclaimer that I gave the last time I read this. While it is about the relationship between a mother and daughter, it is in no way about me or my mother. Getting that out of the way. Okay. You should be the one to take her, her brother had told her over the phone in his most condescending, I know what's best voice. After all, you're the one that always believed her little stories. Dina had wanted to take offense at that, to defend herself and remind him that it had been decades since she'd bought any of that she wasn't a child. But then her sister called on the other line with the same argument, and she had sighed wearily and given in. At 38, the youngest in the family, she had become used to meeting her siblings' demands, which they disguised as requests. So now she found herself in the middle of nowhere, in a town in Kansas called Ash Valley that had been abandoned sometime in the 60s with her 87-year-old mother, Agnetha. "It's this way, Dee Dee," her mother called out, her voice still piercing and strong as she hobbled on ahead, leading her daughter down the winding, dusty road. Cottonwood fluff drifted through the sweltering air, although there were no living trees in sight. The street was dotted with the rusted skeletons of cars, thoroughly scavenged decades past. Agnetha had decided, a week ago, that she would no longer be staying in the nursing home her children had placed her in 3 years ago. She needed, she said, to go back to her childhood house because the angel would be coming for her soon. It had always been a staple in their family, their mother's story about the angel. Dina had grown up with it, had memorized it by the time she was 6. When her mother was small, she had been very sick for a very long time with something called the whooping cough. All the doctors hadn't thought that she would live much longer. But one night when she was alone in her room, an angel came to her window, and when she let him in, he told her that it wasn't her time yet, but that he would come for her many years later and take her to heaven. After that, she got better, and her parents said it was a miracle. The nursing staff had been unabashedly pleased to see Agnetha go. In her recent years, she had become more and more difficult to deal with, doling out verbal abuse to the help and any visitors she received. Dina had used up all her remaining vacation days, flown from her home in Edinburgh, and driven her mother from Florida to Kansas. Now Agnetha was pressing weakly at the door of a dirt-painted house that was missing all its windows but one, standing silent and empty like all the others along the road. Dina stepped forward and pushed the door open, the doorknob was long gone, letting her mother shuffle past her into the house. There was no furniture left on the first floor, a layer of dust and grime an inch thick over everything. Agnetha ignored it, making for the rickety-looking stairs at the back of what had presumably been the living room. The wallpaper had long since peeled away. Flakes of it settled on the floor like snow. The steps trembled under their weight, and Dina hugged the wall warily. The second level of the house was no different than the first, filthy and bare, except for the remains of a toilet someone had dragged into the hall, and smelling strongly of some kind of animal urine. Dina followed her mother closely, covering her nose with one sleeve, wary of asbestos. When they reached the room at the end of the hallway, however, her arm fell away, and she blinked in dull amazement. Her mother's room was small, the walls a soft blue that had faded to sickly green. What was surprising, even alarming, was that it was intact. The window, framed by checkered curtains, was unbroken, the furniture untouched. The carpet, while musty and molded in the corners, was soft, and the dresser still had the mummified remains of a few dolls. "Help me on the bed, Dee Dee," Agatha commanded, patting the small mattress, a cloud of dust huffing out of the threadbare pink coverlet. Too stunned to remind her mother that her name was Dina, not Dee Dee, she helped the old woman settle down, the ancient bed springs groaning and squeaking. Then she dragged a diminutive chair over from the corner, sat on it beside the bed, and hesitantly rested both hands on the bedspread. This, surely, would be the time when Agatha gave her daughter some last parting words of wisdom, opened up and told her that she loved her, had always loved her dearly, and that she was brave or kind, that she was a good girl. Mother would unburden herself to child, leave her with a moment she could look back on, and know that her siblings would never be able to say they had been there for those last precious words. Instead, the silence stretched on, inexorable and tense, and Dina shifted in her uncomfortable seat, eyes finding the details of the lacework on the pillows. She breathed in the heavy, sticky air and exhaled like she was trying to push the room away from her. So, there would be no tender final moments for her, no secrets revealed, but she could keep her vigil at her mother's side and comfort herself in the knowledge that she had stepped up, and that Agatha must have known the sacrifices she'd made to do so, and been grateful. There was a sound, something like the high scream of a plane overhead or the deep bass of whale song. She turned instinctively to the window. It didn't look like anything Dina had imagined, and it didn't look like anything her mother had described. It had wings, and a round face with pale eyes, and any resemblance to the angels she'd seen in church stopped there. For a moment, its body seemed to be long and angular, with searching, spindly fingers. Then it was amorphous, almost gaseous, and then it was a long, twisted shape with 6 limbs, and then something else entirely. It burned, not brightly, but with a kind of murky light that made her squint. And when it got closer to the window, she realized it was emitting some kind of low-frequency hum that vibrated the walls and made her teeth hurt. It pressed something that could have been a hand to the glass. "I told you," her mother crowed from the bed. "I told you, girl. He came for me. He came like I said he would." Agatha struggled to push herself up with her bony elbows. "Help me up, Dee Dee. Take me to the window." As she watched, Agatha seemed to grow taller, face taking on a light of its own, until quite suddenly Dina was a child, looking up at her mother and hearing the angel story for the first time, surrounded by the cloying scent of perfume and feeling the hairs on her arms raise and her breath quicken in awe. For a brief moment, she believed so deeply and so powerfully that she felt as though her heart would burst, that she would surely suffocate under the weight of it. And just as suddenly she was an adult again, a grown woman standing over her mother who was weakly struggling and squirming against the pillow pressed to her face. Agatha's nails dragged red lines down her daughter's arms, but her eyes, visible over the top of the pillow, remained fixed on the window, on the pulsing shape of the thing outside. It was over quickly. Dina stood up and let the pillow fall to the floor with a dry, heavy sound. She folded her mother's arms across her chest, smoothed her hair back, and closed her eyes. She went to the window and threw things from the dresser at the angel until it flew away on its dozens of humming wings, its expression never changing. Then she sat back down, composed herself, and reached for her phone to call her brother and sister, to tell them that their mother had died. Thank you.